All right, I'm here with Greg Marmaros, currently athletic director at Hawken Middle School, but has some pretty cool jobs in the past. So, just wanted to ask you a couple questions about your career and what you've been doing over the past 5 or so years.
Sounds good, Taj. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. So, you have your Patriots gear on, so
Oh yeah.
probably start with that. What people would want to hear the most. What'd you do with the Patriots?
So I was a coordinator of football operations with the New England Patriots from 2017 to 2019, which is a pretty cool run for them. I mean, they've had a lot of success, but that was for their two Super Bowl seasons. The one they lost against the Eagles. You remember the Philly special? That was a pretty cool game. It sucked to be on the other side of that, but and then the other one was when we beat the Rams 13-3. So I was part of the Patriots front office those two seasons as coordinator of football operations. That role, you kind of do everything that doesn't have to do with coaching, the X's and O's. So the business side of football. So um, budget management, facilities, team travel, working with kind of rookies, all players, all coaches, whatever their needs are, to let them focus on coaching and playing. So that could kind of it's a wide variety of stuff you're doing, but it's pretty much the way I describe it is that job. The football operations position is you're allowing the coaches to coach and the players to play. You help with all the other stuff that they don't really want to worry about. So
All right, that's pretty cool, but that's not something you kind of just stumble into. So, what did you do before that?
yeah, so it's a good point. You don't just get your first opportunity with the Patriots. I went to school. Well, I grew up in Cleveland area. I'm from Beechwood. Went to Beechwood High, and then when I was looking at colleges, I knew I wanted to work in sports, study sport management, all that stuff. So I looked all over the place. Ultimately, I decided to go to the University of Connecticut, which a lot of people know as UConn. Um, they have a great sports management program, and then also I wasn't good enough really to play sports probably at the Division 1 level. Well, not probably, definitely not. But I had the opportunity to work for the football team when I was at UConn. So, going to school with a good sports management program and the opportunity to work for a Division 1 football program, that was a really big draw for me, amongst other things. I like being, close to New York City, close to Boston. Some major cities that I always had an interest in. So I decided on UConn, and that's kind of where it all started. And when I say I got a chance to work with a football team, that first opportunity, I was washing jock straps pretty much. I was in the laundry room, talking about the jobs no one really wants to do. That's what I was doing, but I knew I had to get my foot in the door. And if I did that, a good job of doing the laundry, maybe I get some more responsibilities. And ultimately, I did get more responsibilities during my time at UConn. Where I started to help out with more things, work with different coaches on their needs. And I had a great experience at UConn, man. It was a really good fit for me. And during that time, I knew I wanted to work in football. I knew, after doing that, so what were the next steps? So when I graduated, I reached out to all these colleges, man, emails, phone calls. I probably heard back from 3 or 4 schools out of like the 100 plus I reached out to, begging for an opportunity. And one of those schools is Northwestern University, Big Ten school in Evanston. Um, there's a guy named Cody Shada there. Cody was their director of football operations. He got back to me. Cody was, similar to me. He got his start as a student manager at Michigan and worked his way up. So I think he saw something, maybe a little bit of myself in him when he gave me the opportunity. But I got this opportunity at Northwestern. I was, barely making anything, but it was another foot in the door at a Big Ten school to work in operations and recruiting. I spent one season there, an awesome experience, man. Pat Fitzgerald, the head coach there, just runs an unbelievable program, and they're just first class in everything they do from top to bottom. Um, but going back to my UConn thing, it's all about, your networking and who you know. Joe Moorhead, who was the offensive coordinator at UConn when I was a student manager there, he was now the head coach at Fordham University, which is a 1AA school in New York. And, their director of football operations position opened up, and Coach Moorhead knew me, I knew him, and I got another great opportunity. That was a good, exciting job. I was 23 years old. I was director of football operations at a Division I school. I mean, there were kids on the, students on the team that were like a year or two younger than me. So I really, had to be mature. And even though these guys were, of similar in age, I was the director of football operations for this Fordham. And long story short, I spent 4 years at Fordham University. Eventually, I was promoted to an assistant athletic director position there, where I had more oversight of scheduling, budget, some of that stuff. And during my time at Fordham, they have the NFL scouts. A lot of people I don't think realize how many, scouts are all over the place. People think just, scouts are Ohio State, Michigan, Alabama. No, they're covering all schools. We were a little Division I school, and we had some players that were really good and could play. So we would have scouts that would come by, and I was, as the director of football operations, I'd meet with the scouts, talk to them about players, their character, who they are, how I think they could contribute at the next level. And then also, I just talk with them on a personal level, these scouts. And one of the scouts I got to know, his name was Brian Smith, who worked at the New England Patriots. Brian, I don't know his title. I think it was assistant director of college scouting or something like that. He was high up in the scouting department there. And Brian and I stayed in touch, man, for a couple years. And sure enough, a position opened up with the New England Patriots in the front office, as a football operations position. And Brian asked me, he's like, "Hey, would you have any interest in coming up to New England to interview for this position?" I said, "Absolutely, man." Absolutely. What a dream, man. I was like 26 or 27, and the New England Patriots is, if you know football, they're football.
Yeah.
So I went up there, man, for an interview. I thought it was going to be just a 1 day interview on Friday. I ended up spending the whole weekend there, which is pretty much a long interview. Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It also happened to be, I think, their rookie mini camp. So I was working while interviewing, and it was. I think both sides saw, something in each other, and they offered me a position the next week, and I almost immediately said yes. I loved my time at Fordham, the relationships I built, but I also felt like I hit a ceiling there where I needed to challenge myself, to a different opportunity. And, this opportunity came with the NFL, and I'm really glad I decided, to take it, because I have some great experiences there. But that's kind of my story, of working in college football in the NFL. And after 2 seasons, I did leave the Patriots, to come back to Cleveland area. This is where I was from. I had some personal stuff that I wanted to get back for, and it's been great, man. This opportunity at Hawken School is, as you know, it's a top academic school. However, don't sleep on the athletics here. We're trying to get to that. We're working to get to how good we are in academics, as we are, how good we are in academics. That's where we want to be with athletics. And we're attracting student athletes like yourself and others who care about academics, but sports are just as important to them too. So it's been fun to be a part of the kind of students I get to work with here, because they're so motivated, self-driven. They want to be the best in everything they do. And, that's not too different from working with professional athletes and Division I athletes. It's that same drive. So people ask me if it's been a big adjustment, when I went from NFL front office to a middle school and high school athletic department. In some ways, yes, but other ways, I mean, I'm working with similar student athletes, man. I know that sounds crazy, but it's a special type of student here at Hawken for sure.
Yeah, I would ask, like, if you're with the Patriots, it's kind of a built culture already, and you come to Hawken where we're still trying to build something. So what was that like, the parallel, coming down? You probably I mean,
Mhm.
you were from the Beechwood area, so
Yeah.
you probably knew a little bit about us. We're in the same conference, but, building a culture is way different than walking into one that's already built. So what was that like?
Yeah, no, that's at first that was, you could see that, some stuff culturally needed to change for us to trend in the right direction and be successful. And that's from, just what we're doing in the summer with our workouts to, little things. Like I always give the best example. My first year with you guys on the middle school football team, like if we could, this sounds crazy, but if we could, doing the little things right, like after we drink a water with a cup, instead of throwing it on the ground, throw it in the garbage. If we could do little things like that, that's what changes culture when we're doing those little things right. So, we already had some great stuff in place to be successful. We have an awesome athletic director in Jim Doyle and a good team with others, Lauren Butler, Dan Usay, and then we continued to add more, to our athletics team with Bobby Mallet, Brian McLaughlin, and now Will Starks. So we got really good people with really good ideas, and they're smart, and we're definitely building a culture as far as things that weren't maybe in place before. Now they're in place. Like when I said building a culture, like think about what the weight room looked like at the upper school 3 years
Yeah.
ago. I mean, now we have a seven-figure weight room, brand new, with two full-time strength coaches. It's not like a basketball or coach or football coach that is the strength coach. Also, we have two guys who are dedicated to strength and conditioning, and they know all about it. And a brand new weight room. Those are things that build a culture. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So continuing to do stuff like that with our facilities and our work ethic. Um, yeah, I mean that stuff was already there when I was in New England. So I was more learning versus implementing when I got to Hawken.
Yeah, I remember one of the biggest things was before you came, we weren't really allowed to be in the gym if there wasn't a coach in there. And so we used to never go in there. I remember I was in there one day and you saw me in there, you just walked away. You just walked away. Like I was shooting basketball, I was shooting in Ingles gym. There's nobody in there. And you just walked away. You just let it happen. I was like, oh, okay. So that's
Yeah,
different. And
yeah,
like
yeah.
just getting
No,
encouragement for it.
no, that's good, man, and that's a good example. Like if there's a second grader or a third grader in there by themselves, that's a different story. But when there's a middle school, 13 or 14-year-old, even I'll go sixth grade, even where they're getting an extra work because they want to be better at something. There doesn't need to be someone sitting in there for 2 hours for them to get a workout in, and that is culture right there. You know what I mean? Guys like you who are you realize that to be good at basketball, and it's the same with school and other stuff. The basketball season, whenever it starts, October, practices maybe a little bit earlier, and then when it ends in February, March, depending how far you go in the tournament, you don't put down a basketball and then not pick it up again into the fall. Like
Can't do
people
it.
don't understand that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? They don't see the stuff when no one's watching. And then your example of working the gym by yourself. That's what why you're continuing to do great things, and our programs are going to continue to trend in the right direction because we have guys that are working when people aren't watching. And sorry, the culture stuff keeps coming up. So during this time of year too, to that example, we have 20 to 25 Hawken kids in grades third through eighth that are working out 2 or 3 days a week in the gym in the summer from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock with basketball. And that stuff that's new, man. Like that's
Way
instead
different than
of,
when I was there. Way
what's
different.
that?
Way
Yeah,
different.
yeah. Like so, I mean, you kind of there's a lot of good coming up behind you, and I think you realize that.
Yeah, building like I think one of the things that made me stay is like you kind of I mean, you can walk into something that's already built or you can kind of decide like it's a little more challenging, but deciding to try to build something on your own to be able to say like look down the line eventually and be like, well, I was a part of that. That's like a big thing to be able to like say I contributed to part of that. And I feel like a lot of times, so it's kind of hard to get that through to a middle schooler. But from what
Mhm.
I know, especially now, like more and more kids at our school are starting to progress and starting to care more and more about sports. And I feel like I guess there is a parallel there because obviously you have people who don't really care about sports that much. But if you can get a dedicated group of, 8 guys or 8 girls, and then you can start to change something really quickly.
Yeah, and I love that approach you had because I don't know how much people know about you that are listening to the podcast, but you were a guy who had, other opportunities to, probably go to a more established program, someone that was, somewhere where they were winning more than, we've won here, but you took a chance to be one of those first guys. Hey, I'm a good student athlete. I care about school. I want to win though too. I could do it here. And I mean, you're only in your sophomore year, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be a junior
So
sophomore.
you got 2 more years. I mean, think about I don't know, I just feel like the program went 2 years ago to where it's at now and who we have and who's part of it,
Yeah,
it's a
2
big
years
difference.
ago, they had 1 win, maybe
Eh,
2
but
wins.
if guys like you didn't take a chance and like, all right, you know what? I have a lot of friends here. This is a great school. I see the potential for us to win. I want to win here. And you know what I mean? It takes guys like that. And for me, part of my role as an associate director of athletics, yeah, I'll admit we're a private school. So I am gonna reach out to people who I think are good fits. Now there are rules with that.
Yeah,
I can't call an eighth grader or a ninth grader and their family and tell them, hey, you should come to Hawken and all that stuff. So anyone that's hasn't entered the seventh grade yet, I'm allowed to reach out to their family and start, talking about Hawken. There's nothing
yeah.
illegal about that. And it's cool, man. It's cool when you get to talk to families and um, about, the potential at this place.
Is there anything you miss about either the college level or, professional level, like the work you did there? Is there anything you miss about that?
There's things I miss, there's things I don't miss. Some of the glamoury stuff, like getting to ride on charter planes, that was pretty cool, man. I'm not gonna lie. Like you go fly privately everywhere um, at the NFL level, and you're wine and dine with good meals and all that stuff.
Yeah,
That stuff's cool. That stuff's really cool. I'm not gonna lie. And even when I was at Northwestern, they're in the Big Ten. They have a lot of resources too. We were flying to almost every game. When I was at Fordham, it was a lot of bus trips. There's a few flights in there, and that's just. That's the travel part. That's really not measurable to the other stuff. Why I'm doing what I'm doing. It was a little bit different at each level I worked, and it's cool because I got to work at the college level, professional level, and now middle school and high school. Um, and you're working with students or athletes, student athletes at different stages of their development. This one is, I mean, honestly, the most rewarding one. Get into, I help out with a youth and middle school athletics here, so I'm going on year 4 here, and I'm starting to see some of those kids that we worked with, having more success as they get older. So that's cool. You know what I mean? And at the professional level, you work with pro athletes. A lot of people forget that they're 19. Most of them are 19, 20, 21, 22, 23 years old. So it's not like they have all the answers. They're still learning. They're still growing. There's still ways you could help people like that. And college is very similar. Um, to high school almost where these, they're still figuring it out and then helping them. But things I miss, I mean, the most important things are, I'm realizing the ones I like the most are working with, having an impact on kids and helping them achieve their goals, which, I feel there's a little bit of less, that at the professional level, helping people achieve their goals. It's more of a business. Um, but yeah, the chartered flights is obviously awesome, man. Playing on, big NFL stadiums, being there for
yeah.
that. Um, Games on TV. Uh, there's a lot of cool things. I don't know if there's not like there's not a huge thing I miss. It's just like little things like that were really cool to be a part of.
Yeah. Is there anything you'd like suggest to anyone who probably listens to this and probably hasn't thought about that field yet? Not everyone
Yeah,
can play a professional sport, but there
right,
are ways to get involved if you love baseball, football, basketball, hockey, whether soccer,
right.
whatever it is, there's ways to get involved. So what would your advice
Yeah.
be to someone?
I mean, I think there's a couple things. If you want to work in sports, there's 2 ways. You could, if your goal is to play in college and you have that opportunity to play in college, that's great. You get to, meet a lot of people, build your network. Um, But if you're a guy like me who maybe didn't have those opportunities to play, but you still want to be a part of it, when you're looking at schools, reach out to the program that you're interested in. I mean, these programs are always looking for extra help. So if it's soccer and you want to do something with soccer, reach out to the coaching staff. Look up their email. For me, what I learned, a little bit of advice. Um, and as you get older, you'll see you might even already have a LinkedIn page, but sending someone a LinkedIn message or an email, it's fine. I'm not discouraging that, but a handwritten letter could get you that opportunity even more. It's easier for someone who works in the NFL front office or as a college director of football operations, whatever sport it is, for them to delete that message or not reply because they get so many. But a handwritten letter, you look up, let's say you're going to Ohio State University and you want to work for the football team, look up their address and write director of football operations or someone on the coaching staff, a handwritten letter that you want to be part of the team with your contact info. So I think if you want to work in sports, you definitely, you can't not be involved in a capacity. And then when you graduate, being like, all right, I want a job in sports, because it's all about it's about who you know. You got to have a network. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if you're a 4.0 student and you're great at school, but if you never, worked in the field, volunteered as a student, it's going to be more challenging to get someone unless you have a dad or someone in the industry already that has that connection that can get you, help.
Yeah. Um, I'd say having professional athlete cousin, kind of like seeing like what they go through daily, it's a lot of work and it's not always so much like what you can do, but who you know and who's willing to give you an opportunity at a certain capacity. So I think networking is a huge deal, in terms of if you want to get to where you want to go, especially at a professional level.
Yeah, and it's a huge thing. And another thing, your cousin could attest to this. I mean, people just see when they turn on the TV at 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock and watch that game for football or, basketball, March Madness. Oh, it's so cool that these guys get to play and the guys that get to work on them. A lot of people don't realize like the commitment. Like, when I was in New England and Fordham, I was working like 80, 90-hour weeks. And those players they're putting in a lot of hours too. So you just don't roll out the ball or, there's a lot of hard work in any job. And it's not that I don't work, hard here, but there is a difference. It's not 80, 90-hour weeks working every weekend, that kind of stuff. You're still putting in hours, but the work-life balance, I definitely enjoy a lot more at this level.
Is there anything you're like looking forward to? Any goals you have for your program now at the middle school or at the high school level?
Yeah, I want to, ultimately, and I'm going to say something, but there's a lot more depth and layers to that when I say it. I want, our school to compete and win for state titles, whether that's football and basketball. I mean, swimming,
Yeah.
swimming, you don't have to hope too much for that. It's an unbelievable. Side note on that, I mean, when's the ESPN 30 for 30 or documentary going to be on Hawken swim program, what they've been able to do? For those of you aren't familiar, I think it's like 23 or 24 or something.
Girls is 24, I think, straight Division II state championships. So
I mean, so state titles, in the, other sports. And how do we get there? When I say state title, it's about that culture that we're building, right? Getting the right people, guys like, yourself and others who have that mindset, that want to be the best they can be. And if you put a lot of people in a room like that with that mindset, it's going to click. And things, are going to keep happening. So state titles that's my goal. If I could be here and I could see a state title in basketball, football, or, other sport, people that are, have individual sports like a wrestling and they can compete for state titles, other stuff like that, tennis. I want to see as much as we can. And I want to, and that's my goal. That's my, goal that, you could put on paper. The goal that you can't see is just developing student athletes to their highest potential. So being the best person they can be on and off the field. If I could be an impact, if I could be a small part of that, that's the most rewarding, man. If I get, if there's someone that work with in rookie youth football or flag football in third grade, and then see it all the way through for rookie tackle at middle school and high school, and they really reach their fullest potential, that's when I'll be the most happy.
Yeah. You came in my 8th grade year. I was an 8th
Yes.
grader. Yeah. Um, I'm pretty sure you might have took over this at the time. They were 4th graders. You had their flag football team, if
Mm-hmm.
I'm not
Mm-hmm.
mistaken. That's my sister's grade, and Lucas and Paxton, their little brother, my
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
brothers on that team. And we used to talk about it all the time. It's like, yeah, he's running four verts like almost every single play, having Tanner throw the ball 30 yards. So
Hey,
it
we,
was
we
like
we mixed it up a little bit more than birds.
it was a fun time. Like that was the start of COVID. So at end of my 8th grade year was the start of COVID. We went online.
Yeah.
But up until that point, we got through basketball and football season clean. So
And then the spring was just, yeah,
yeah,
because I remember, yeah,
it was a mess in the spring, and, it was bad because I remember even before because it was spring break by the time we decided to go online, but I remember, like, Paxton Lucas telling me, like, their baseball games were getting canceled, like, every
yeah.
week because of
Oh
rain,
my
they
God, it
feared
was,
delayed. It was a lot going on. I feel like that's kind of a tough thing to walk into, like, your first year, you get hit with COVID. Everything was running pretty smoothly.
yeah.
We had a solid football team that year. We were actually pretty good, and then basketball wasn't too bad either for us. And
Yeah.
then you
It,
kind of hit COVID a bump.
it
So
put a stalemate on everything, man. Like as far as when you're trying to change culture and you're trying to bring people and obtain all these goals, and then COVID happens, and it's like, yeah, everyone's dealing with it, but it puts a stop, a halting stop on the stuff you're trying to accomplish. And I never asked you, like, I'm pretty sure everything stopped, but I know you're big into AAU basketball in the spring. What spring did anything happen? Like when?
so we stopped. Obviously, we couldn't go to tournaments and
Right.
tournaments, especially when you're younger, because our basketball season is shorter in middle school and elementary school than high school. High school can go till end of March. State tournament runs end in
Okay.
March,
Yeah.
so you can't really go to a tournament until April.
Gotcha.
But when you're in elementary school, like you'll start practicing in like February
Right.
because season ends like February like 15th, like middle of
Right.
February. You have your first tournament March 22nd. So like
Yeah.
we're at that time, and then we just have to stop. Like we're done playing. We couldn't get into a gym, so our coach, he would have us. We'd go to Edgewater, the beach. We go to the beach and we'd run around. So there's a big grass area there, and we'd have to run around it in a circle. So we were doing literally conditioning for like 3 months straight, just nothing else but it. We'd go to Thornton Park. There's a hill there. We'd have to run up the hill, do up downs, and run up the hill for an hour and a half. And not even just us, he'd have every single grade of our organization. So we might have had, maybe we skipped a grade. So we had 8th at the time, we had 6th, we had like 5th and like 4th and 3rd. So we had, like, you can imagine, like, ages basically ranging from ages 14 to like 9 running up this hill for an hour and a half.
Oh my
And
gosh.
and we can't play basketball, but we ended up towards the end of the year, toward into the summer, we actually did get a few tournaments in, and honestly,
Really?
that's probably the best AAU team I've ever had. That team,
Wow.
for anyone listening that remembers that team or was a part of that team, we have some we had a very, very good team. We had a kid who's at Ignatius right now, Carter Jackson. Um we had kid Richmond Heights. We had someone who's at Eds now. We have Justin. He's at US.
So
So
you're saying, I mean, obviously the talent level was there. Was it as far like a good a team as like just talent, or as far as like just your guys how you click together and
we
all that
got
stuff?
along really well. So this was the 3rd year of our team. So we started in 6th
And
grade, and
this is the ALC organization.
yeah. So every year we'd have new players, and we had got shout out Sean Martin. This is the year he came to the team. He's running back at Ignatius now.
Oh, wow.
So he came and he ended up playing point guard for us, and we ended up having this team that was ultra talented, and it was like, and I felt like it was I'm still kind of upset that we didn't get to play a full AAU season.
Yeah.
We went to we went to a Midwest circuit and we went 15-1 or something like
Oh my God. I
we
see.
lost
I'm
one
familiar with
game.
that. Yeah, that's in Indianapolis, and that's like top
Yeah,
players in the country.
we only lost one game. It was like, and we're like, man, that was a really, really good team. And just the
Wow.
year before, we were
Yeah.
good, but then we kind of got put over the top, and it kind of put a halt in everything. Just not
Yeah.
play at home. I remember like we couldn't at one point when it first started, we couldn't even go work out. Like there was nothing you could do. It was just kind of at home stuff. Our coaches texting us at home stuff to do, like hoping like we're gonna play eventually. And for a
Right.
while there, it didn't look like we were, but we ended up playing.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like that was a. So, are a lot of the guys? Are you still playing with a lot of those same guys in the AAU
I
cycle,
play
or?
with three of them. I play with three of them still. We've since split off into different
Yeah, I get
ventures
it. Yeah.
now, but I mean, some of those guys are now focusing on football. Some of them very successful.
Well, so it's funny you say that. So, I'm a Beachwood guy, and I try to keep up with Beachwood. There's a kid your age who played AAU's his freshman year. I want to say he was a quarterback at Beachwood or eighth grade. Do you know what I'm
Um,
talking about? I know. I
Des and
think he
Dom. You talking about
transferred.
Desmond Dom?
Where's he at now?
Des goes to Shaker, and Dom is actually a defensive end at Joe's. And Dom,
Okay, so St.
shout
Joe's and
out Dom. I know
yeah.
he visited Ohio State and Kentucky this year. So
Wow. Yeah,
football.
St. Joe's they got a great football program. We played them first round of the playoffs here.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
good team.
So we're so I think that's probably the team that especially that year, I felt like we were so talented that year, and I think we would have been really good had we had an entire season, but instead we spent like a solid portion of it running hills and in the grass instead, being yelled at to actually
Right.
participate. So
Sounds like it's something you guys look back at though, and actually have some good memories from. The silver. There's some silver lining in how bad of a time that was.
definitely, I feel like it kind of put a reset button, especially going into high school. And even it was hard for I know us, like when I first came into high school, we couldn't go inside the gym at one point. Like
Yeah,
it was
I mean, because
bad.
this happened. I mean, COVID when it really first started was March of your eighth grade year,
Yeah.
and then yeah, it led right into your freshman year. So I believe it's my memory is a little bit fuzzy on purpose from that
Yeah.
stuff.
I remember going in, I couldn't go play in the gym. So we're running out. Nugent has us running outside and he invited me to come. I was the only incoming freshman. I was with a bunch of juniors and seniors running. I'm like, and like we're running outside on the soccer field. And then eventually they let us in the gym. We can't play against each other. Can't even play one on one after practice. It's literally just you're at your own hoop doing like individual workouts, and it was a long drawn out process. And then eventually they allowed us to have open gyms, but the open gyms weren't, kind of had to stay separated as much as we could from each other. And it was a lot of different things going on. We missed a couple games that year due to COVID, even
Yeah.
into like December, and
Wow.
started a little late that year. So I think this year especially I enjoyed it so much because it was kind of more open. Like we actually could have fans this time.
Right.
That was I remember my first time playing with fans. It was so weird. It was so strange because they were like, the rest of my teammates are like, "Wait, Todd, this is your first time playing with fans?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." I mean,
Yeah.
outside of our playoff game my freshman year, we really didn't have many people in the stands because it was limited to like 2 tickets per person. So yeah, I got like two parents, but
Yeah. 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 Yeah,
then
no, I mean, it's a difference. I mean, as you know, and you're going on junior, it's fun, man. High school basketball, those crowds when you're on the road. I mean, they're gonna test you. They're gonna try to get in your head. It probably doesn't work too much on you, but others, they try.
yeah, I've had some wild comments.
Yeah,
Shout out West G. That those
they
students.
got a good fan base.
They yeah. Second game of the year this year. They asked one of my teammates, "Are your shoes from Goodwill?" And I was like, "All right."
Oh boy,
They asked me like, "Have you ever stepped in the weight room?" And I'm like, "Oh, okay."
just
That
trying to
was
get in their
bold.
head
That
until
was
you drop
bold.
like 30 points on them.
So I mean, it's fun. I enjoy it.
Yeah,
I think we have 2 more years. I'm excited for Greg and Ron coming up from the middle
yeah,
school. It should be fun. I feel like Northeast Ohio basketball kind of slept on, especially in our state because Columbus has really good basketball, Cincinnati has really good basketball, but I think I mean, we had Richmond Heights, they won D4.
Mhm.
East was Final Four D for D3. Like we have some really good schools around here, and Northeast Ohio basketball I think is very special. So
I
I'm
agree.
excited for
I
it.
mean, there's a lot of good players there. Do you find yourself now that you're going in your junior year, like taking more of a leadership role? Or
Yeah.
I feel like even like kind of your freshman, sophomore years, you might have started to take that role a little bit younger than most people. But now that you're especially in your junior year, what does that look like?
Yeah, so my freshman year, I was like, it was more of just like I was like just there. I was
You were playing varsity though.
I'm 14. I was 5'6", 110. Like I was like tiny, and like I'm still not big yet. I'm still very small, but like it was like I was just kind of there. I really played basketball and just kind of went home. That was about it. But then like my sophomore year, I felt like I was more accepted. Like I kind of took a bigger step where it was like, okay, well now they're kind of relying on me. My freshman year is more of like what I do is a bonus. They don't expect
Hmm.
me to do much, but if I do something, then it's a plus. But then you kind of walk in to your sophomore year, and and now I'm expected to be the main scorer on the team. It's like it's
Hmm.
different. That's a different feeling. Like even when we lost our playoff game this year, like my freshman year, I was crying. I was so sad. And then this year, I didn't cry. I was angry. Like it was a different feeling of being expected to do something. And so
Hmm.
having expectations, and I feel like that's a good thing because
Yeah.
if we're to the point where we're expecting more out of ourselves as a team or for anyone for that matter, if you're expecting more of yourself as a person, then you're kind of moving in the right direction. That means that there's obviously some sort of potential that you sense there that, man, you could have done this better and this would have translated. So now this year being having a young team, not a ton of guys with a lot of experience, kind of having to take on more of a leadership role, having to, be kind of a coach on the court in a sense, because if you have a lot of guys who don't have a lot of experience, big games can be stressful. Big games are very stressful. You play like a game against our rival US, and that can be
Hmm.
hard. You have 100 kids from both sides pack the stands maybe, and then you have to deal with it. Especially last year, their gym is very tight. They have stands on both sides. In our court, we only have stands on one.
Right.
So it's
Right.
kind of like if you kind of go to the other side where like your bench is, then you deal with it. But
Right.
both sides of the court, it's kind of rowdy. So you gotta deal with it. So I'm excited for this year
No,
and
that'd be
take
cool.
a bigger leadership role.
That's great.
Yeah, so hopefully I'll make it down to a middle school game. My sister's in 7th grade now, so I'll probably be down
Yeah,
somewhere.
she's a good athlete herself, man.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I know our 8th grade team this year is going to be very good, so I'm definitely going to watch.
Yeah, yeah. There's definitely some good guys as a new student too transferring in. Who's a big boy. I'm sure you know about.
Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Marmaros.
Yeah, no, it's been an honor
Pleasure.
to talk with you and catch up, man. And looking forward to you continuing to do some great things.
Yep. I'll stay in touch.
All right, man. Take
All
care.
right. Thank you.
Bye.